Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a truly spectacular treat? Today, in the house, Dr. Jeffrey Morgan, a mathematics professor at the University of Houston, and also the face of the University of Houston Math Contest, which is such a beautiful contest, free to the public, and I've attended it several times and I know how inspiring it is. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and that you smash that like button. We have Dr. Jeffrey Morgan with a beautiful insight on the University of Houston Math Contest and in mathematics in general. Right ahead. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. For a real treat today. In the house is Dr. Jeffrey Morgan, Associate Provost for Education, Innovation and Technology at U of H since May of 2013, Director of the Center for Academic Support and Assessment, CASA, since spring of 2004, co-director of the annual High School Mathematics Contest at the University of Houston since 2006, co-director of free AP Calculus teacher workshops sponsored by the University of Houston since 2001, co-director of the Teach Houston program since spring of 2007 to summer of 2021. The Teach Houston program was the first replication of the UTeach program. Chair of the Department of Mathematics from the fall of 2003 to the summer of 2013. His research interests include reaction diffusion systems and mathematical biology, where he has published numerous scholarly articles. Welcome, Dr. Jeffrey Morgan.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, it's a real treat. It's a real honor to have you on my show. I'm so appreciative. I first got to know you through the University of Houston Math Contest. I've been an admirer ever since.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming to the contest. We love doing that.
Hey, and we're going to talk plenty about that contest shortly. Let's start off by asking, how are you doing?
I'm great. I keep getting another day. I always tell people that. I come into the office, people ask me how I'm doing. I say, I got another day. That's the best you can hope for. My life's good. I've got a wonderful family. People I know are healthy. We have friends. And, it doesn't get any better than that. Those are the important things in life, family and friends.
Oh, absolutely. So how are you enjoying life? Hobbies, interests, or are you consumed with work?
I wouldn't say I'm consumed with work. It certainly takes time. They don't pay you to stay at home. Well, they did for a while. But I'm not consumed by it. It does take up time. I'm still very passionate about teaching. I always have been. Might say, well, that's part of your work, but I think I would teach even if I wasn't still working at the university. I do like to exercise. I lift weights, and up until about a year ago, I was running pretty regularly. Got an injury, and now I seem to be past that, and I started jogging again recently. I'm an avid football fan. I mean, during football season, if football's on, I'm watching it. And we're going to watch World Cup this morning at 9. Of course, my wife and I loved watching the Astros win the World Series. That was really super. I'm enjoying U of H basketball, and it's renewed prominence. I remember the days of Phi Slama Jama very well, and it's good to see U of H back on top again. I hope it lasts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Me too. I remember Phi Slama Jama too, man. That's some awesome stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
football, college or pro?
Both, both, and probably if I was retired, I'd go to high school games on
Oh,
Friday night. I just love football, and I don't have to have a team that I'm cheering for. I just really enjoy the game. You know, I like to see the competition. I like to see how teams respond. It's a little bit of a chess match. I mean, teams come to the line of scrimmage. There are a lot of decisions that are made at the line of scrimmage. It's not all predictated, you know, blocking schemes and everything else. And of course, the defense is trying to disguise what they're doing, and quarterback might audible into something else. It's there's some complexity there that not everybody realizes, and I just love watching the competition. And of course, there's so many incredible athletes. It's just amazing to watch these young kids. I'll say kids, even for Tom Brady. I mean, heck, he's 20 years younger than me. So it's amazing to watch what these guys can do. Just incredible.
awesome.
Yeah.
Leave it to a PhD mathematician to look at it analytically. That's awesome. That's awesome. Dr. Morgan, where are you from, born and raised, and what's your cultural heritage?
Well, I grew up first almost 11 years of my life in a small town in Ohio. There's a small town called Minerva, Ohio, and there was TRW had a plant there. They did a lot of work as a defense contractor, but they do a lot of other stuff as well. My father worked at TRW. My mother was a nurse. She got her nursing degree, you know, when she was young. She and her sister were I think the first ones from her family to get any kind of post high school education. Her sister eventually got an EDD, and but my mother was a nurse. And so we were in that small town. There were less than 5,000 people in that town. And I got to tell you, I loved living there. It was great. Everybody knew everybody. And it was a different kind of world than Texas. Don't get me wrong. I love Texas. But, you know, we came down here and everybody had fences around their yards and things like that. In Ohio, nobody had a fence. In fact, if you had a fence around your yard in the town that we grew up in Ohio, people would think that you were uppity, right? Everyone played in everybody else's yard. It was very safe. You know, you could leave the house in the summertime. You'd have breakfast in the morning, and you would just take off, and your mom would say, "Make sure you're back home by supper." You know, you may or may not be home for lunch. If you were at somebody else's house, they fed you. But we wandered all over town and played with everybody else. But we knew we better be home for supper, because when my dad got home, we had to be at the door. So. It was just a completely different environment. But then my father's boss got a job with Cameron Ironworks in Houston. That's the company that built the Astrodome.
Oh, really?
And so we moved down here to Texas in it was November of 1969. We moved down here, and we've been in and around the Houston area ever since. I spent almost 16 years in College Station as a professor at Texas A&M University. But I'd say that's still almost Houston area. I've essentially been here ever since, and I'll officially call myself a native Houstonian and a Texan. I doubt that I'll ever live outside of the Houston area, and I'd be perfectly happy to continue to live where we're living now for the rest of my life.
Well,
Yeah.
U of H and Houston are fortunate to have you. So, when did you realize that you had a talent for mathematics?
Well, you know, when you're a young kid, you maybe know that you're good at math. I mean, in first and second grade, there was this game we played called Rabbit, where you would stand up next to somebody else's desk, and the teacher would do a flashcard, and the first one to call out the correct answer won, and then they would hop up to the next desk, and I would go around and around and around the room in first and second grade. And there was a moment in my third grade when something kind of different happened. You know, I think there's a difference between arithmetic and mathematics. When you're thinking about mathematics, you're thinking about actually making observations of things and wondering if they're always true. And I remember distinctly in third grade, I was in Mrs. Jameson's class, and she'd given us an exercise where we were just filling in the squares of integers, and I wrote down 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared. And after I did a few of those, I made an observation. I said, hey, the difference between successive square integers is always the next odd number, right? I mean, 2 squared minus 1 squared is 3, and 3 squared minus 2 squared is 5, right? And 4 squared minus 3 squared is 7, right? And it keeps going like that. And I made that observation. I distinctly remember making that observation. I ran up to my teacher's desk and showed her what I had observed, and she said, "Oh, Jeff Morgan, you're always causing trouble. Go back to your desk." But regardless of that, that was still a distinctive moment for me. And I think there were other observations that I made after that. I had a great teacher in fourth grade named Mrs. Clegg, and she had so many kind of cool observations about the way numbers worked and things like that. Fifth grade, my family actually traveled to Texas the summer before my fifth grade year, and this was when my father actually came down and interviewed with Cameron Ironworks, and we visited my uncle Bob and Aunt Jane in Dallas, and he taught me how to play chess. And I think that learning how to play chess was also a big part of my mathematical development. I was a very passionate chess player all the way through high school. I think I finally had to quit it because I was playing too much. Maybe I had a little bit of an addictive personality, but I was playing too much. I finally had to put it down. But I definitely knew early on that I had some math talent. But honestly, I struggled in junior high school. In fact, in Algebra 1, I don't even know how they gave me a passing grade. I think I may have had ADD or something, but I couldn't stay on task to do anything in middle school. It was just absolutely impossible. But, schools do what they do, and they went ahead and passed me in Algebra 1. And then we moved out to Jersey Village my ninth grade year, and I had this teacher named Bob Collins, and I still try to talk to him at least once a year in ninth grade. And this guy was just amazing. You could not daydream in his class. He was constantly up there asking questions and pulling information out of you, and he was so charismatic. I would say that Bob Collins is the biggest reason why I'm a mathematician today. I loved that class. I just loved that geometry class. And while I was taking that geometry class, I kind of self-taught myself Algebra 1 that I'd never learned, not from a book, but just from thinking about it. And then there was another math teacher there at Jersey Village named Jim Took, and they took a group of us and got us into calculus our junior year, and saying that was kind of life-changing. I don't think there was any guarantee at that point that I was going to be a mathematician. In fact, when I was an undergraduate, a couple of years into undergraduate school, I quit.
Oh, really?
Well, I was working. It took me 5.5 years to eventually get my undergraduate degree, and I was working. And I had some other interests. I started a small business for a while. I managed a trucking company. My father had a steel brokerage that I worked at for a while, and he and I had gotten a little bit crossways. And I was thinking about I had basically three choices. I could go to work for one of his competitors. I had lined up. I had a business plan to open my own trucking company, and I had a group of drivers who were going to go with me. Or I could go back and finish my undergraduate degree, continue working and finish my undergraduate degree, but not work for him, just work a part-time job for somebody else. And I thought about it for a while, and I realized I was going to ruin my relationship with my father if I chose either one of the two first options. And so I decided to go back and finish my undergraduate degree. It was the best thing I ever did. I finished my undergraduate degree. I met a man named John Hardy, who was a professor in the math department there at U of H, and he was a mentor to me for a number of years. And I stayed at U of H and went to graduate school there and got my master's degree and my PhD there at the University of Houston. I absolutely loved that place. And when I finished, I was hired as an assistant professor at Texas A&M University right there in College Station.
Wow.
And eventually became tenured and then became a full professor there, and then found my way back to the University of Houston.
I must mention, I'm a Cougar also, and I actually had Hardy for class in mathematics. Yeah. Mr. Hardy, Dr. Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was very good. He's inspiring. He taught me number theory. So he was so inspiring. Good guy.
Yeah. That was his thing. He was a solid guy. Yeah.
You paint such a beautiful picture of growing up in Ohio, a different time and a place. And you were so generous here making a shout out to many of your teachers, Ms. Jameson, Ms. Clegg, and Mr. Collins in particular from Jersey Village.
Oh, yeah.
And so those
he was outstanding.
Guys...
He left Jersey Village and went out to North Harris County and taught at Lone Star for a while. He retired a handful of years ago, but he was a great teacher and just a great guy, just a solid guy. He and his wife still live in Jersey Village, and I still remember their home phone number because I called that number a lot. And after I was out of high school, when I was in college, there were a lot of times when I would just drop by their house in the evening and just visit with them. I mean, he and his wife were just great.
Wow, that's a special relationship. So he inspired you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what is a professor's job like?
It's interesting. I tell people that being a college professor is the closest thing to being in business for yourself, except you don't have financial responsibility. If you take a tenure track appointment in a university, you're expected to do research and also some teaching and some service work. But aside from them telling you which classes you're going to teach, and it's not very many. I mean, when I was a young professor at Texas A&M University, I taught 2 courses in the fall and 2 classes in the spring. And that's the typical load for a faculty member who's doing research and teaching. So they give you your teaching assignment, but they don't micromanage how you teach your class, right? You decide what research you're going to do. You decide what research funding proposals you're going to write. You decide where to send publications when you finish research, what journals you're going to publish in, and things like that. You just have an annual review that happens every year, and then somewhere around year 3, they start getting a little more serious about it because they have to make a tenure decision on you by year 7. You're up or out in year 7. And, around year 3, they start doing a serious review to determine whether you're going to be able to continue. But it's really all on you. And I've seen a lot of really smart people fail in that endeavor because you have to have this self-discipline to stay on task and to self-organize and do all these other things. There's some people that are very smart, but they just can't seem to do that. In general, I think self-discipline is a huge just determining factor in any kind of endeavor in life. If you've got self-discipline, we certainly see this with our students in the classroom. People ask me, what does it take for a student to survive a college math class? And the first thing I'll tell them is self-discipline. Just do what you're asked to do, right? Do the homework, do the reading, review the course notes, spend time on the material. If you do that, you'll do fine. The students who don't do well in college math tend to be the ones that procrastinate, put things off to the last minute, don't get their assignments completed, miss class, a lot of these kind of things. Being responsible is a huge thing. And in fact, I think that's also true in industry. Employers want responsible workers. They want people who will show up, who will do their best. And so, I mean, that's a skill set that anybody can develop, right? Anybody can become responsible. That's a life decision. And if you do that, you can be successful in life. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So
But as
true.
far as a life of a mathematician, like I say, it's this balance of teaching and research. As I say, you have to chart your own course. You've got to pick good problems to work on, and sometimes that involves finding collaborators, and sometimes you're going it alone. I've been fortunate to have good collaborators over the years. There's one person that I've written a tremendous number of papers with, Dr. William Fitzgibbon, who is still a professor at the University of Houston. He was not my advisor. Dr. Giles Ahmadi was my advisor at U of H, but right after I graduated, Dr. Fitzgibbon and I started doing some research together, and I think we've probably published, way past 50 articles together. Somebody else could count them if they wanted to. You can go on Google Scholar and find me. And yeah, but Dr. Fitzgibbon and I have written a large number of publications, and he's still a professor at U of H. He's still there, and he and I still talk regularly. We're extremely close friends, and we've enjoyed a very, very healthy. Yeah, so I had a lot of interest actually when I was a graduate student, and I think I had a hard time deciding what I wanted to do. In fact, I went through a few advisors because I would be interested in what somebody was doing, and then I'd see something else. It's like you see another shining object and you move on to it. But I ended up working in an area related to reaction diffusion systems, and that has to do with nonlinear systems of differential equations of a partial differential equations of a certain type, and these particular partial differential equations can be used to model chemical reactions and some mathematical biology, some disease models. We wrote a couple papers associated with COVID when it first came out, but honestly, I'm not a biologist, that's for sure. I'm not a biochemist. I won't pretend to be one. I'm a mathematician on these projects. So mathematical models are built, and I bring mathematics to bear to try to analyze these models and determine what happens to the solutions to these models, and then hopefully someone can use that to try to figure out what's actually going on in real life. So I'm a mathematician first and foremost. Every now and then I think first about an application, but I'm primarily, I'm interested in mathematics. I like to know how things work, and there are things that just make me curious. I see something and I say, wow, I wonder how that works. And then I'll go after it. But that's the kind of research I do. I continue to do that research. I had quite a few publications in 2021. I've had a few publications this year. I'll have more stuff that will appear next year. It's just it's an ongoing thing. I don't have a huge readership, but in the area that I work with, I think that a lot of people know me. There just aren't a lot of people in the area that I work with and that I work in.
Well, you know where a lot of people know you? A lot of people know you because of the University of Houston math contest. You are the figurehead. You're the face of the U of H math contest. That's how I first got exposed to you. How did you get involved with that contest?
Well, yeah. Well, when I was at Texas A&M University, they had a math contest, and it was struggling a little bit. There was a professor named Arthur Hobbs there that ran that contest, and he poured himself into it for a number of years, but there were some changes that needed to be made, and he was gracious enough to allow me to get involved, and then I took over that contest, and we kind of changed the face of it. When I left Texas A&M and came to the University of Houston, they had a math contest previously. In fact, John Hardy, who we mentioned earlier, had helped run that math contest, I think along with maybe Gary Etchen. And but they didn't have one there at the time when I came back to the University of Houston. And I I like interacting with high school teachers. I mean, for a short time while I was at A&M, I published a newsletter that I called The Right Angle that we sent out to a lot of high school math teachers, and I'd go teach it. I'd go not teach, but go speak at high schools and talk to different math groups and things like that at high schools. It's just something I enjoyed doing. I was always a passionate teacher, and it just seemed like a natural extension of the teaching that I did. But anyway, when I came back to the University of Houston as a professor and then became department chair, I just felt like it was important for the University of Houston to get its math contest going again. So we started the math contest back up again. It has always been completely free. We've never charged for it. Same way with our AP calculus workshops. We don't charge anything for those. I think outreach is important. I know that a lot of universities charge for these kind of things, but I think it has to be possible to find resources to do these things. Sometimes a few of those resources come out of your own pocket, but this outreach is important, right? The high school kids, that's the seed corn for life, right? You have to pay it forward. There were people that made a big impact in my life, that changed my life. Education is something that changes people's lives. I tell students all the time, get as much education as you can while you can. It's one of the few things that no one can ever take away from you. And it will change your life. I have students that say, well, I'll never use this. You never know. You never know. Knowledge is power, whether you use it or not. Whether you use a particular thing that you learn or not, you're changing the way your brain works, right? Yes. You stumble across something and that causes a curiosity, something you maybe never thought of before. But education is power. It changes everything you do, your entire life. It'll change your job. It'll change the people that you spend your time with. It'll change the education and the lives of your children that you have later when you grow up. It completely pays everything forward in your life.
I will tell you.
It's just so very important. It really is. And people need to be lifelong learners. They've got to be lifelong learners. I've never stopped learning. People say, wow, when you finished your PhD, I guess you didn't have to worry about learning anything anymore. I learned more the first year that I was out of college than I think I learned the entire time I was in college. I'm constantly still learning new things. I'm fascinated by the kind of technology that students have available to them now, the kind of computing power they have available to them now. I've always been fascinated with that. Going back to when I was a teacher at A&M, I was heavily involved in bringing technology into the classroom. All the TI calculators, the HP 40HGX calculator, Drive, Mathematica, Maple. I was a co-author writing several technology manuals for Stewart's calculus textbook associated with a lot of those things. And I've always used technology in my teaching. I've helped develop software. And there's so many cool tools now that help students explore. When I was younger and you wanted to explore an idea, you just had to kind of think about it. But now you can actually use computational tools to play those what if games. And I find that very interesting. You were about to ask a question. I'm sorry, I was just rambling.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love the passion. I love it. I love the energy. Let me tell you, I've attended the U of H contest many times, and the energy in the room, the smackdown, the throwing of the free t-shirts. Y'all even give free t-shirts oftentimes. So all that buzz, it really makes an impact. It really celebrates mathematics. It really inspires the kids, man. I've seen you pull out your wallet at this contest and give a $100 bill to the winners. Why?
Right. Well, first of all, it's such a pain in the butt to have the university give money to students because they have to fill out these silly forms. But I can just take the money out of my pocket and give it to them. We don't have to deal with all that junk. Look, the kid just won some contest. We should be able to just celebrate that they won that contest. And if we want to reward them, we should be able to just reward them without having to fill out a bunch of documents associated with it. If I take that money out of my pocket, then I don't have to fill any documents. That's my personal gift to that person. And I'm happy to do that. Now, you mentioned about the T-shirts and all those other things. Of course, the last couple of years, we've gone virtual with our contest. And now we're kind of in this crazy space where we can't decide whether we want to go back face-to-face or virtual or not because of COVID. But, last year we had students from 19 different states and 10 different countries take place in that contest. So the opportunity to interact with more teachers, more students, is causing us to say, hey, maybe virtual is a good thing. The same things happen with our AP Calculus workshops for AP teachers. We've got teachers attending those workshops from all over the country. Before, when we were running those live, it was just teachers from here in the Houston area. Now, I love teachers here in the Houston area, but I want to reach out and try to interact with other people and give other people an opportunity to potentially benefit from what we're doing. And free is not a bad thing if you can sustain it. It's not always possible to sustain free things, but so far we've been able to sustain it, and we've been doing those AP Calculus workshops since 2021. And that's not going to end anytime soon. And the high school math contest has been free for a long time, and that's not going to end anytime soon. So, we'll keep doing it as long as we can do it.
And that's awesome. I love it. And you're right. Free really helps out struggling math teams in high school who don't have much of a budget. So that's one of the reasons we would go to U of H, and it was such a wonderful experience. How daunting of a task is it to host a contest, and how many people are involved?
It's like an army. It really is. Now, I have to give a shout out to at least one person. Jen Marsala is just been just such a huge help in this. And a little background on Jen Marsala. I met her when I came to the University of Houston, when they hired me away from Texas A&M University. They had just hired her as a full-time lecturer. And, there are some full-time lecturers there in math who are really excellent. And some of them who hear this might have objection to what I'm going to say. Jen Marsala is the best mathematics teacher ever. Period. End of story. And she had an issue that occurred in her second year there that caused us to have to take her out of the classroom. She had a medical issue. We had to take her out of the classroom. And let me tell you, I thought I was going to have riots. I mean, the students in her classroom were really passionate about having her in the classroom. She was just a tremendous teacher. We were fortunate to be able to continue to keep her employed, and she's been an instructional designer for us ever since that time. And she helps tremendously with the high school math contest. Now, there are a lot of other people that have helped too. Becky George and James West and Melahat Almas, and the list goes on and on and on and on. If you go to that math contest website, mathcontest.uh.edu, you can look at the award slide from last year, and there's a slide there where it lists the names of people that helped. That's not all the people, but it's a lot of people. I mean, I think there are probably at least 30 people who are actively involved in helping put the contest together. I do oversee things, and I also do things. I mean, this year I'll write I always write the calculator exam. This year I'll also write the Algebra 2 exam. Interestingly, with my son is a math major at the University of Texas, one of my sons. But we'll write that exam together, and I'll also help with writing questions for the SmackDown. The great thing about doing it online is, I was always busy in the grading room overseeing grading while the SmackDown was taking. But since we've been virtual, I've got to run the SmackDown.
Oh, wow.
So that's been nice. So, of course, you don't have the energy of the room when you do it, but you can still feel the energy. And I have a programmer named Jatinder Walia who works for me, really talented guy. He's worked for me for about 20 years, over 20 years actually. And he developed some software for the SmackDown to help make it a little more engaging. I know it doesn't match the energy, and we certainly don't have the energy of throwing those T-shirts out into the audience and giving away calculators to teachers and all these kind of things. But it's a balance. Like I say, we're bringing in more kids from other states and other countries, and you have to decide what you want. I mean, do you want that local energy, or do you want that? Although I should point out that there was a school that there have been a few schools, even when we did it in Houston locally live. There have been a few schools that came from outside Texas to the contest. There was a team that came from Nashville on a charter bus one year, and they were in the contest again last year and did well in the contest last year as well. But Clements High School has won that contest almost every year. It's just amazing the program that they have there. And you mentioned Teach Houston earlier, which is the first replication of the You Teach program, and that Teach Houston program is a STEM teacher training program. The great thing about Teach Houston and also the You Teach program is that it recognizes something that's very important, and that is that people who want to teach now, right? If you've got that passion to teach, you don't want to go to school for 4 years and then finally get a chance to get in the classroom. Teach Houston gets their students in the classroom from their first semester as a freshman. They're learning how to write lesson plans. They get an opportunity to go into classrooms, and that continues all the way through the time that they're an undergraduate till they finish their degree. And they get a degree in an actual STEM discipline. So they get a degree in math or biology or chemistry or computer science or physics. And then they get the certification hours on the side, but they're teaching from the beginning. And I've always found that if you don't feed that passion for someone who wants to be a teacher, they will find a way to feed that passion outside the classroom, right? And which is good. Maybe they'll become a youth soccer coach. I did that for a lot of years, or something else, right? Where they get a chance to do this. But we need good teachers in schools, right? In K through 12, we desperately need good teachers there. So anyone who has a passion to teach STEM, I want to find some way to get them to the classroom. Now, I moved out of that program in the summer of 2021. You can only do so much, right? You can't do everything. I had to give some things up, and that was something that I gave up. But I am having I'm having lunch this coming week with one of the co-directors of that program, and I'm sure we'll spend some time talking about it. It's a great program. It really is.
Yes, I had some Teach Houston kids go into my classroom at the high school level, and so I just know what a wonderful program it is. It's so awesome.
I lost my train of thought there, but the reason I brought that up is because the person who runs that group at Clements High School that competes in the contest, he was the first graduate of the Teach Houston program.
Roberto
and
Garcia?
He runs that program. Ricky
Garcia? Ricardo?
What's that?
Garcia?
Yeah, that's right. He was the very first graduate from the.
I know him and his wife. Wow.
He's a good guy. I don't know him as well as I'd like. Right? I'm just
sure.
I just know who he is. That's it.
But you're right about Clements. Clements Fort Settlement. It's ridiculous how dominant their math programs are. Which is beautiful. I applaud them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. It really is.
So what does the future of the U of H math contest, is it going to be online from here on out, probably?
I'm sure that discussion is going to continue. We had a big discussion about that this year because there were some people that wanted to go back to the face-to-face. We also talked about the possibility of having kind of a split contest where there'd be online participants, so there'd also be live at the contest participants. And It's possible that things could go that way at some point in the near future. I kind of fought it off this year. Um,
Wow. Okay.
I wanted to do it online one more time and just see how things worked. I felt like we were very successful with it the last time, and I want to try it again and see if we still get that same impact. Still have as many people coming in from other states and other countries, and if we do, then we will continue to do it virtually. We might, dovetail the live part in with it, but I wonder. Thinking about high school students, you wake up on a Saturday morning and maybe you've told somebody you'll go to the live contest, but then you realize that it's also being held virtually. I'll stay at home and just do it virtually. I think a lot of that would happen. I don't think we'd have near as many people show up for the live contest if we did a split contest that was both live and virtual. And then, as you say, there is this issue of funding. I mean, schools have to have money to put kids on a bus and bring them to a contest. And a huge shout out to all the teachers and also parent sponsors to get involved in this. And it's a lot of effort for them to bring people physically to the contest. Of course, we also have a lot of students who just come to the contest without being part of a high school team. Their parents just bring them and I think that's great. People always, contact us. They're worried that their kids can't compete in the contest because they're not part of a high school team. You don't need to be part of a high school team. You just come and compete.
Well,
right? That's what we want.
From a high school math teacher who's done it many years, it's probably one of the best things in town, man. You can't beat free, and it's so inspiring. It's so beautiful, and I expect it will remain that way for years to come. That's awesome. That's very awesome.
I hope so. I really do. I think that's really important. Free is not always sustainable, right? We found this out. They found this out, years ago. I guess it was back in 2013. That's when the whole MOOC revolution started. And at that time, the idea of this MOOC came out, and people were talking about how all this education was going to be freely available. And there is a lot of freely available education. In fact, anybody who's motivated can learn about anything for free online, right? There's also been these things for many years called books. And people can go get a book and read a book and learn things as well. But, MOOCs didn't take over the educational landscape because free isn't sustainable.
I got you.
That's a problem, right? You have to have money to do things. Schools need money. You have to pay people to do things. The teachers have to eat, just like engineers have to eat, and doctors have to eat, and they have families they have to raise, and they're doing important work. So it's not free. It's never going to be free, and there aren't enough rich people out there. If you took all of their money, it would all be spent in a year. But if we decided to finance the education of everybody in this world on the backs of all the money that rich people have, all that money would be gone in a year. And then what would you do? Right? So the free isn't sustainable, and so we continue with public and private education. As I mentioned, though, you can learn anything you want yourself if you just access the information online. I mentioned earlier that I'm constantly learning new things. I'm not paying anybody any money to teach me anything anymore. I will just go learn whatever I'm interested in. You can find all sorts of resources online. If you're interested in something, go read about it, go learn about it, do it. I really encourage people to do that.
Great message. So this transitions us to, I want you to give some advice. Give some advice to any young people hoping to enter college. How about entering mathematics in particular? What advice can you have for these youth that may come across this interview?
I said this earlier, get as much education as you can while you can. And math is important. I don't care, even if you're going to major in, journalism. Data is such a huge part of our life. Make sure when you go to college, you take, and you can do this in high school, take an introductory statistics class. Learn a little bit of mathematics. I know that algebra can have a tendency to turn students off to mathematics sometimes. And that's because it's such a long path. It's kind of it's a crazy but true story. I mean, I taught calculus for a lot of years. And I remember distinctly having this conversation in my calculus class one day. A student, we were actually in calculus too, and a student asked me, you know, at this point, right, we've been through all the high school math, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus 1, calculus 2. At this point, there's probably a lot we can do with our mathematics. And I said, well, actually, I want you to think back. When you were in pre-K and kindergarten, you learned all the letters in the alphabet, and you learned the sounds that they made. And then at some point, you started reading. I said, the sad fact of the matter is that right now in calculus 2, you're probably just about at the letter M. I said, now, if you take statistics courses, you will be reading literature within one semester. I mean, statistics. Make sure you take statistics. You can really get into real applications very quickly. And I'm not talking about statistics and probability where you have problems like, there are 14 blue into a bag containing these marbles. What's the probability of getting a blue marble, right? That's an educational activity. Sure. But statistics is used in life just all the time. I mean, it's nonstop. It's rampant. We're having this short conversation this morning, and while we're having this short conversations, millions and millions and millions and millions of problems are being solved using basic statistics. So I really encourage students to learn some basic statistics, to have a chance to learn a little bit of data science. Every student should learn how to program. I think it's really important to learn how to do some simple programming. A lot of students have these TI calculators, and they're not aware of the fact that TI Basic is built into those calculators, and you can learn how to write a little bit of simple code there. But what I really encourage students to do is take advantage of some modern languages, learn how to write a little bit of code in Python. You can go online and take some free courses on Python. There's lots of people on YouTube that are just dying to teach you how to do something. Python is a cool little language, but there's so many languages. And once you learn how to program in one language, you can pick up programming in any language. And I'm not talking about needing to be proficient enough to be able to do something outrageous like writing 100,000 lines of code to develop a computer game, right? I'm just talking about learning how to do a little bit of computer programming, because that will allow you to explore and experiment in ways that you haven't thought about before. It'll also open you up to jobs that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. You tell a potential employer that you have some programming experience, and that's a game changer. So get as much education as you can while you can, before life gets in the way. And being successful getting education really dependent upon just being responsible. That's a big part. Be responsible. Be responsible. Work hard. You don't have to have special talent. It helps if you do, but you don't have to have special talent. Having some self-discipline, that's a game changer, right? That's a cheat code in a video game. Self-discipline will take you so far in life. It's incredible. Just develop that, and you can succeed in life. You can succeed in education. You can succeed in anything you do.
Great advice. That's great advice. I love it. I love it. I love it. What does the future hold for you as far as research, outreach, personally? What's the future have for you?
That's a tough question. I mean, people ask you when you're young, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? Yeah. And it's not sure. The question, there are all sorts of questions that kind of surround me right now. I'll be 65 in a month, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that, I do think about changing the things that I do. I mean, right now I'm a professor. I also still teach at least one class a semester, and I'm a university administrator and oversee, a number of things at the University of Houston. But there's part of me that does long to go back to just being a professor, teaching my classes, doing my research. There's also another part of me that thinks that, you get to this age and you start wondering, how many more years do I have? Right? And you start thinking about, what you want to do with the rest of your life. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think I would slow down at some point. I'll probably slow down, do a few less things, spend a little more time with family and friends. There's some traveling I'd like to eventually do that I've never done. There's so many things, but for the next 5 years, definitely for the next 5 years, I will continue to do my research. I'll continue to be passionate about teaching. I love to teach, period. There's a question I used to ask. I'll throw this in here. There's a question I used to always ask. How did anybody ever come up with a 15-week semester in college? Why did they decide 15 weeks? Where did that come from? I think I realize where it is now, because at the beginning of the semester, I'm always so passionate and excited. By the end of 15 weeks, I'm ready for a new group of students. I don't know what it is, but it's true. And I'm excited for the spring semester. I mean, I'm finishing up my fall semester as a class I'm teaching right now. I've got about 70 some odd students in there. I've got over 100 students registered for a class I'm teaching in the spring, and I'm excited to start with those students in the spring. I have a PhD student that's doing research with me. I still have my collaborators. I've got some research projects. I've got a collaborator at the University of Graz in Austria, one at Washington University. Of course, Bill Fitzgibbon and I mentioned before that Dr. Fitzgibbon is still at the University of Houston. He and I still collaborate on projects. I've got a project going with a professor right now that I can't even remember off the top of my head where they are. We started, the internet brings people together in ways that it never could have before, but I saw some work that this professor was doing, and it was closely related to some things that I'd done. So I contacted her, and we've never met.
Oh, wow.
We've never seen each other. We've never even talked. We only corresponded by email, and we're gonna publish a paper probably before the end of the year. The people I work with at the University of Graz, I've only met them on a Zoom call. I've never seen him face to face. The person I work with at the University of Washington, I haven't seen him for almost 40 years.
Wow.
It's we're having this talk right here, right?
Yeah.
Right? We're not in the same room. We could be on the other side of the world. I taught a class one semester, 18 years ago to a group of students in New Delhi.
Wow.
Right? It's a different world. There was this book that came out that said that the world is flat. The world is a point. It's a point.
Wow.
Any person can connect with any other person in any time, provided they have a little bit of technology, and that's just changed everything. So, what will I do going forward? Well, I know I'll continue to teach in some form. I'll do my research for a while, but past 5 years, I can't say. I mean, I'll be 70 in 5 years, and I don't know what life will look like. There might be a new adventure that pops up for me. Who knows? But you'll have to check back with me, because I can't tell you.
Well, I will say you do look strong and fit. So looks like you go for a long time further if you wanted to. So, any parting words or
I hope so.
Any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
Yeah, just never give up. I would just say to anybody, you know what life will bring you. You don't know what life will bring your way. We all face hardships. Everybody's going to face hardships. We're all going to fail. I have failed numerous times in life, both personally and professionally, and managed to find a way to get back up on top again. And I would just say that, if you fall and you skin your knee, just get back up and keep going. Never give up. Life is a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful opportunity. And the great thing about life is you get a new chance every single day. And you might not always make the most of that chance, but all you have to do is make the most of it a few times, and it can completely alter your life and the life of people around you. So never give up.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Jeffrey Morgan, I've been a long time admirer. I really love the way you conducted the U of H math contest. That's how I first encountered you, and I was an admirer of how you were such a great figurehead, such a great face for that contest that's done so much good. So I'm very appreciative of you coming on my show, sharing your wonderful perspective, your wonderful insight, man. It's my true hope that our paths will cross in the future.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, you got a friend at Pasadena High School. Just so you know, I'm at Pasadena High School. You have a friend there, and I really appreciate you, okay?
You bet.
Farewell, Dr.
You bet.
Morgan.
Happy to do this. It's great. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, you take care.
Farewell, farewell. Wow, what great energy, what great insight provided by Dr. Jeffrey Morgan. Wow, that was some fascinating insight. Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey Morgan, for your insight and for appearing on the show. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and that you smash that like button. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Let's spread this joy, let's spread this beauty to as many people as possible. I have plenty of wonderful things in store for this channel. I really appreciate your support. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Farewell.